Hello and welcome. In today's video, I am going to be covering over specifically our expired, canceled, withdrawn cold call script. So how we reach out to these people, how are we getting them interested to want to speak with us? How are we then pitching an appointment and getting an appointment booked with a client to go and ultimately convert into a listing? So this is something that we've refined over time. This isn't the exact script, but this is a close replica of it. And I'm going to explain each part of the script, number one, and number two, why we say each thing that we say, right? Because it's very important to understand what the script is and what the outline is. But what's even more important than that is why are we saying these things? So to start off, you always want to start off a call, hey, name, with a very curious tone. You want to pique their curiosity, and in their head, you want them to think, should I know this person? So you could say, hey, John, it's just Braden. Quick question. They're like, oh, just Braden. Okay. Yeah. What's up? Right. They want to learn more. Right. And then what you can say is, hey, obviously if you're a solo agent or something, you would just put your name, but we're calling on behalf of people. So we'd say like the realtor's name and brokerage, etc. But you would just say, hey, it's Braden. I was just calling real quick. I just want to see if you were still accepting offers on 123 Main Street. I saw it had just come off the market. Just want to know, like, did you end up accepting an offer? Are you still looking for one? What does that kind of look like? Right? And you want to get information. That's the whole goal of the first half of the cold call is information. And there's different things you do to ask these questions. So like obviously if you're firing them off 5-10 questions, someone might get annoyed. They might say, hey, stop asking questions. What you can always say is you can say, hey, just one last quick question, and then ask like 3 more questions. But the whole goal of all these first questions is literally to get information. Are they still accepting offers on the property? What price are they looking to get? Right? Obviously, only mention if it's a reasonable offer, if it is a reasonable offer. Then you want to ask them, when you previously had it on the market, what offers were you getting? Right? Because this is going to help you identify, well, were they not getting any offers? Were they getting good offers and then they just chose not to sell? This is going to help you pretty much decipher where they're at in the selling process. Was their last agent really good and they just don't want to sell anymore? Or was their last agent terrible at what they did, didn't get any offers through, and that's where the real issue is. If they got good offers, you can always ask them why they haven't chosen those other offers. If they did get, they didn't really get any offers or only lowball offers, you're going to ask them what their last agent did. So pretty much the high level process is you want to ask them, are they still accepting offers / selling the property? What number were they looking to get? When they last had it listed, did they get any offers through? What did those look like? Why didn't they take those? If they didn't get any offers through, what did their last agent give them as far as feedback for why they didn't get offers? And then what are they looking to do? What was the ultimate goal? What was the initial goal when selling? Did they want to sell the property and move to Florida by spring, summertime? What was the ultimate goal? And you really want to rekindle that towards the end of the questioning, because then you're going to get them to talk about their goals and where they wanted to take the property to, or why they want to sell it, excuse me. Once you've got all that, this is the pitch. And this is a very basic pitch. It's obviously scripted out, but with your pitch, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to tie in what they gave you as far as information for when you actually pitch that person. So if somebody says that, they want to sell the property because, let's just say they don't need that much space anymore. They want to downsize, and just be able to they don't need, 3 beds, 3 baths anymore. And they really want to downsize. They don't want to uphold that property anymore. It's too much maintenance, too much cleaning, et cetera, et cetera. When you're pitching them, you're going to want to mention that. You're going to want to say, hey, I know you said that your last home was XYZ, or your current home is XYZ, and you're looking for more of a, smaller home that's easier to manage, cost less, etc. What we can do, and then in your pitch, you're going to want to obviously provide value in whatever area possible. So if you know that they haven't found their next home yet, you're going to want to pitch that along with selling. So selling the current home, helping them find the new home. If you know that their last agent gave no communication, you want to mention how your communication is above the expectation that most people have for agents. And you just want to tailor your pitch specifically for what they want, right? And the way you get this, once again, is questions. So I would spend 80% of your call literally asking questions and just figuring out their scenario. right? Once you've got all those questions, you've pretty much got ammo to go into the pitch with that you can use as far as getting their curiosity built and getting them really interested in wanting to speak with you. And then overall, obviously, once again, we want to find their motivation. And then when we pitch, we can say, I'm sure you're tired of receiving so many calls. I'll just cut to the chase. We've got a big database of home buyers and investors that sometimes are interested in properties like yourselves. We also do list properties in the case of the seller wanting to get top dollar. To be fully transparent, we don't actually have a buyer actively right now looking, but we just do have that database because it is true. A lot of agents have other agents they know and they know buyers, et cetera, et cetera. We just want to see, I mean, would you be totally, opposed to speaking a little bit more about, selling the property at 123 Main Street? If you were still able to get that 500,000, and then downsize and move to a more manageable home, obviously I don't want to waste your time. So I can definitely get straight to the point on how we'd be able to pretty much come in with a new strategy that maybe your last agent didn't hit on too well. So what you're doing is when you're pitching them, you're bringing in their ideal end price, which is that 500K, let's say. You're saying if you could still get that price and you could still downsize, move to a more manageable home, you're giving them what they want, what their motivation was for selling in the first place. And then you're taking away all the negatives, with much better communication than your last agent had and a different strategy. The key thing is difference, right? What are you going to do different than their last agent that's actually going to help them sell? And a lot of them might say right here, well, what do you do different? And you'll say, that's a great question. That's exactly what I cover when we meet in person. What time would work best for you? And then you schedule that appointment, because all of those questions you want to answer on the appointment. You want to answer when you're in person with the seller, when you're at their property, because then it goes a lot further. It kind of holds a lot more weight, right? And then, like I said, you want to just ensure that this appointment knows you don't have any buyers. Be super, super clear with that. And make sure that, they have proper expectations as far as it's a listing conversation. It's talking about listing. Now, I know one of the biggest objections a lot of agents get is that buyer objection. Well, just bring me a buyer. The best approach I've seen is saying, hey, totally understand. I'll definitely look to see if we've got any buyers. Now, quick question for you on that. I'm guessing you're trying to get the highest price for the property possible. Is that correct? They're always going to say yes. Yes. Cool. And just out of curiosity, I've seen a lot of sellers. I've seen ones that only get one buyer through, they get 10 buyers through. 99% of the time, to get the highest price possible on the property, what you want to do is bring a lot of buyers through so you have negotiating power, so you can drive up that price as high as possible. So I guess if you just got one needle in the haystack buyer that was 90% of what you were asking for, 95% of what you were asking for, or you could get multiple buyers coming through that could actually help you sell over 100% of what you're asking for on the property, which one would you prefer? And almost every single time that will destroy that objection, because it's just using logic. Logically, if you have more buyers coming in, you're going to have more negotiating power. You're going to get to drive that price up, etc. So that's a really good objection to overcome for when people say, hey, can you just bring me a buyer, etc. And like I said, you just want to book an appointment in person. You don't want to you're not trying to sell listing on this call. That's the biggest thing, is on this cold call, you're not trying to sell them on listing the property or using you as the agent. All you're trying to do is pique their curiosity, get them to agree to have an in-person conversation with you to learn more, right? And you can say, hey, on that in-person, if you don't like me at all when we first meet, you can kick me out of your house anytime, no question asked. You really want to lower their bar and lower their resistance, so that way when you actually get in, it's a lot easier, to book the meeting. It's a lot easier once you pull up into the property and you meet the seller, for you to be able to have that conversation, because they're not as tense. They don't feel like they have to sign anything today. And that's what you want to get rid of. You want to get rid of that nervousness of them to talk to you, because then they're going to open up a lot more. So that is overall everything. If you like this video, I'm going to be coming out with a lot more content in the next few weeks and months, etc. If you want to know specifically a little bit more about our service as a whole, we deliver ready-to-list sellers to real estate agents, teams, and brokerages all across the U.S. So not only do we cold call those sellers and we pique their curiosity, book an appointment, we also get them to know, like, and trust the agent and actually want to work with the agent that we're sending them to before we send that seller through. So when we send them through to you, they're at that point where they're ready to list. If you want a little bit more info on that, there's a link in the description to go to our website. You can check some stuff out, book a call if you deem it best. If not, totally fine. Keep taking these videos. They're free value. I'm going to try to come out with much more better videos as far as quality, but I just want to cover over transparently and openly what our script is. It's a simple script. It's not this out of this world thing. But if you take this, you understand the frameworks behind it and why we're asking questions to find this person's scenario and then how we're using that in the pitch, and you go do it for yourself, make a ton of calls, book a ton of meetings, and you'll get a lot of listings. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.